Pro here with your parallelism grammar video. So hopefully you guys are doing great with your online learning and our switch to online. So hopefully this will help you to sort of work through this grammar lesson and complete your grammar quiz due at the end of week 12. So I wanted to go over parallelism with you this week. And just to help again with your writing and making sure that your writing is at the level that it should be for this course. So these are a little bit higher level, not just making sure that your verbs are correlate with your nouns, but also that you're doing some more complex fixes to your writing as well. So parallelism. So a sentence exhibits parallelism if similar ideas are expressed using the same syntactic and grammatical structure. So this is about structure. I know I'm always talking about structure in our writing, but your sentences also have to have good structure. So writers use parallel structures to communicate ideas that have the same importance using the same grammatical structure. So it's when you're listing things or you're showing two things that are similar or of equal importance in the same sentence, it has to have the same structure. So parallelism is most common using either gerund phrases, so that's where the verb is plus the ing suffix, or infinitives where you have to something. So to sit, to stand, to something. A faulty parallelism occurs when writers do not use the parallel structure to communicate the series of ideas. So really this most often and most common, it comes in the verb form that you're using. So here's a faulty parallelism example. Without good pitching, the Marlins can be expected to lose more than 80 games, to draft early in next year's draft, and attendance will suffer greatly. So the ideas that they're looking at are losing more than 80 games, drafting early in next year's draft, and attendance suffering greatly. However, we did not use parallel structure. The first two are parallel because they use they use an infinitive. So to lose and to draft. So to make this parallel, the last idea also has to have the infinitive form of the verb structure. So they change this down here with it says correct parallelism. Here, okay. Without good pitching, the Marlins can be expected to lose more than 80 games, to draft early in next year's draft, and to suffer greatly in attendance. So now we're parallel. We use the infinitive forms of the verbs for each of the three ideas that they're using that are of the same importance, okay? So that is the most common way. So just when you're listing things out and you're saying this thing plus this thing plus this thing, make sure that you are using those parallel verb structures. Look at those verbs. Make sure it's to something for all of them, or you're jumping, standing, and sitting, your gerund phrases for your verbs as well. So make sure that you have that parallel structure. It makes it more easily read, and you could see the equality between the three ideas that you're presenting. Okay, parallelism can also come when applying correlative conjunctions and comparisons. So correlative conjunctions are both and, not but, not only but also, either or, whether or neither nor. Now, I don't expect you to memorize this, but just pull out this sheet when you know that you have a lot of comparisons going on. And this is especially important during this week where we're doing our compare and contrast, papers, because you will be doing these comparatives and you will be using correlative conjunctions. So make sure that you have the correct parallelism when you're doing this. So an example of faulty parallelism using the correlative conjunctions are Andrew was both an industrious student and he was also an excellent athlete. So here we're using the a correlative conjunction, we should be using both and. If you start with both, then you just use and. But he's also using also, but also, or and also, which is not with both, okay? So to fix that, we would say Andrew was both an industrious student and an excellent athlete. So we're using the both and correlative conjunction. Notice that since an adjective noun pair is used with both elements, no commas needed. If you use the not only but also, with independent clauses, you have to separate that with a comma. So here's an example of where you use the comma. And we went over commas last week, so hopefully you would pick up on this anyway. But Jessica not only excelled in math, but she also astounded audience with her musical talent. So that is parallel. They're using the not only, but also correlative conjunction. So just make sure you're looking at what you're using and you're not saying both and also, because that's not the correlative conjunction pair that you should be using. So make sure that you have that parallelism there and that you're connecting the words properly to form that structure of the parallelism. Also, we are using comparisons. Can use parallel structure as well. Again, you'll be using this with your compare and contrast papers that you do this week. But so comparisons, they use parallel structure when you connect two words, phrases, or clauses with a comparison word, including than or as. You need to make sure it's making sense. So here's the faulty parallelism. Sharon's grade point average is much higher than her brother. Okay, so we don't have the correct parallelism. Reading this, I think Sharon's GPA is higher than her actual brother. Not her brother's GPA, but her brother itself. So that's confusing. Why would she be comparing her GPA to her actual brother? Okay, so we need to make these parallel. We need to say Sharon's grade point average is much higher than her brother's grade point average. Okay, or her brother's, and it's assumed that you're writing grade point average. I would even put grade point average in there because that makes it that much clearer. You need to make it clear. You don't want her grade point average higher than her actual brother. You want her grade point average higher than her brother's grade point average, and that has to be made clear in the sentence itself. Another example of how to correct this would be Sharon has a higher grade point average than her brother does. So that would be how you would change it to make the correct parallelism there. So think about how you're using your verbs, first of all, and how you're making these comparisons, and make sure that the structure of the comparison is equal between the two things. You want to make sure that you're being clear about what it is that you're comparing. You don't want to be comparing your GPA to your brother. So make sure that those things are equal and that they're so that your comparison is equal as well. So think about the correlative conjunctions, write a list of those when you're going through your papers this week, and make sure that you're using those properly and you're using those in an equal manner, in a parallel manner. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks so much.